Okay, we're holding on Mem Gimel Amid Beis, Yasser Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yechanan. It's over halfway down the page, 43. Yeah, 43b. We're going to use from the Hebrew to English. Okay, so turn to Amid Beis. It's very convenient. That Gemara because it has the commas in it.
Yeah, that's what I like.
It even has the commas in Rashi. Which is pretty cool. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day, and this chus of learning we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. So our Gemara starts, Yasser Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yechanan. Rav Dimi was the traveler, and he would bring statements from Rav Yechanan, bring statements from Eretz Yisrael. So when he shows up, before we say anything, yesterday we had two opinions, one from Rish Lakish and one from Rabbah, regarding if an ox kills a slave unintentionally. Rish Lakish said because he can't kill the ox, because it was unintentional, so you also can't charge the owner of the ox to pay for the 30 coins for the slave. Then we had another statement from Rabbah that said if an ox kills a regular person unintentionally, so because he can't kill the ox, the owner of the ox doesn't have to pay kaifer. We had two statements of exempting an owner of an ox because his ox was unintentional. And the manslaughter, whatever it's called, of this ox was unintentional. So now Rav Dimi comes name of Rav Yechanan, and he says kaifer. It says in the pasuk kaifer. Remember, it says that the owner is put to death, and it says im kaifer yushas alav. It says if kaifer is put on him. Matam leimer im kaifer. Why does it say im kaifer? Rashi says im over there doesn't mean if. But whatever the case is, why does it say im kaifer? It's coming to teach me that even if the animal killed unintentionally, and therefore I can't kill the animal, which is normally the rule when an animal kills a man, you kill the animal. Over here I can't do that, but nevertheless it's coming to, that extra word im is coming to include an extra type of kaifer that you still have to pay the penalty that an owner would have, the owner of an animal would have to pay if it killed a man, if this animal kills a man. Amalei Abaya says Elameata. So basically what just happened now is Rabbi Yechanan argues on Rabbah. Rabbah says that you don't have to pay kaifer if you don't kill the animal. Amalei Abaya, so Abaya says to, who could Rabbi be talking to? Rav Dimi. He's talking to the one that brought the statement from Rabbi Yechanan. Elameata Evednami. What about by the slave? We had another statement from Rish Lakish. Also, that if an ox kills a slave, if you don't kill the ox, then you don't have the penalty of the 30 coins. Eved nami matam alaymer im eved. It says over there also the word im. The rabbi says eved shlei bekavana keved bekavana. You probably want to say that it's coming to include that you do have to pay the 30 coins, even though the animal did not kill the slave on purpose. You're asking a question like there's a problem. Maybe that's actually the case. Rish Lakish, how could you say that's the case? Rish Lakish says, Rish Lakish says that you're exempt. How could you say that you're chayiv? Amalei. So Rav Dimi responds, Gavra Karamis, you have a problem with Rabbi Yechanan saying something because Rish Lakish says differently. It's the most common thing that they argue. Rabbi Yechanan, Rish Lakish. Back where Rav Dimi comes from, is Rabbi Yechanan and Rish Lakish argue all the time. Rish Lakish would say that you don't have to pay the 30 coins, and Rabbi Yechanan would say you do have to pay the 30 coins. Talking about a slave that gets killed by an animal, unintentional animal, didn't have intention to kill. Yasser Ravin Amar Rabbi Yechanan. When Ravin comes, he says the name of Rabbi Yechanan. This is classic because Rav Dimi leaves a lot of things hanging, and Ravin shows up, and Ravin was also a traveler, but he has more clarity usually and clears things up. I think in the Hanukkah Gemara there was they heard something from Rabbi Yechanan or something, and then Ravin came and said it, and Rabbi Yirmiyah says, "Oh, if I would have been Zeicha, I would have learned it first time." He said, "What's the difference?" He said, "Girsa the Yankasa. You remember it better when you learn it when you're younger." So he didn't accept it right away. Anyway, but Ravin seems to have more authority or more clarity. When Ravin comes, Am Rabbi Yechanan Eved Matam Alei Marim Eved. He says clearly. It says in the pasuk if it kills a slave. What does it mean? If it kills im Eved, the Rabbi said Shlei B'Kavana Keved B'Kavana. Exactly what we were thinking that Rabbi Yechanan argues on Rish Lakish, that you do have to pay the 30 coins even if the yaks did not kill the slave on purpose. We're on Mem Gimel, you see?
On the bottom.
Rish Lakish Nami Nema. Let's follow Rish Lakish's logic. Let's say Mida Eved Im Eved Leidarish. Obviously, Rish Lakish doesn't learn Eved Im Eved. He doesn't learn the extra word Im. So probably Kaifer Im Kaifer Nami Leidarish. He probably doesn't learn the extra word Im Kaifer. And Rish Lakish would probably hold that you're exempt from paying that the animal kills a person unintentionally. Amri like say no. Eved Im Eved Leidarish. But Kaifer Kaifer Darish. He doesn't learn the extra word Eved, Im Eved, but he does learn Kaifer, Im Kaifer. Maishna, what's the difference? Why is he being selective? Eved, Im Eved, like Siv Imakim Tashlumin. It says Im Eved, what was the pasuk?
Yigach Shor or Amma.
Yeah, Im Eved, Yigach Shor. That's talking about the scenario. If it gored an Eved, so what's going to be the halacha? Kaifer, Im Kaifer, Ksiv Makim Tashlumin. Im Kaifer doesn't, that's not the scenario. That's the payment that the person has to pay when his animal kills. So
that's clear.
So the Im Kaifer is what he would learn from, because that it didn't have to say, because he has to pay the Kaifer. It's not Im Kaifer. But Im Eved is just the scenario. If it gores Eved, then the case would be different. Then you would have to pay the 30 coin. So that he doesn't learn from. Come out is that if he learns the extra word Im Kaifer, then he would have to pay Kaifer, which is a penalty payment for an animal that kills a man. And he would have to pay it even without kavanah. On the other hand, he would not have to pay the 30 coins if his animal killed a slave without kavanah, without intention. I was going to say later what had to kill without intention. It was like we said, rubbed against the wall and knocked it, or it would fall into pits or whatever.
So in general, does a person pay kofar if he kills accidentally?
No.
A person never pays kaifer.
So this is a case.
A person never pays kaifer for his own doing, only for his animals doing.
So this is a case that this discussion is about where things that are owned by somebody, the animal or the slave,
right,
have a situation that's different than the owner himself would have.
Yeah. The owner would have killed unintentionally. He probably would have had gullus or something.
Right, but there's no kofar.
Right.
So it's the animal or the slave.
If the person kills a slave, is there gullus for that? If the person kills a slave? Is that considered? I think there is. Right?
Well, are these slaves Jewish slaves?
This is Eved Kanani slave.
This is an Eved Kanani slave.
Yeah. That's if an animal kills a slave, you pay 30 coins. Okay. Let's see. Now it says, "B'chein beben ay bebas." The pasuk says if an animal kills a child. Tana Rabbana was taught in the Brisa. Ay ben yigach, ay bas yigach. If it hits a boy or it hits a girl, the animal gores The same obligation that the what we have to do to an animal that kills an adult, you have to kill the animal. Same too, you have to kill the animal if it kills a child. But I didn't, and it's actually logical. Now, when it says it's actually logical, it's actually asking a question. It's asking a question. Now, because you just told me that there's a pasuk that teaches it to me, why do I really need a pasuk? I have it's logical. I have it logical. I don't need the pasuk. Pasuk is extra. So it says v'leidinu. It's logical. If a man hits a man, okay, person is chayev. It's chayev misa, right? Capital punishment. The chayev sharbadam, and there's also a punishment if an ox kills a man. What's the punishment? The ox gets put to death. Ma. An animal kills a slave. Yeah. What we were asking is if a man kills a slave, is that considered like killing a? Yeah, that's an animal kills a free man. So, just when a person is chayev, because a person killed another person, so he's chayev misa, capital punishment. There's no difference if he killed a child or an adult, right? Doesn't matter the person's age that was killed. We're also not going to make a distinction between if the animal kills a child or an adult. But in both cases, we're going to put the animal to death. Why do we need a pasuk? Not only that, but kal v'chaymer. Even have it's not only is it logical, but it's even a kal v'chaymer. It's more than that. If when it comes to a man that kills another man, you did not say that if the person that killed was a child. You only said if the person that killed was an adult. That's when there would be capital punishment. If a child kills, there's no capital punishment on the child. So you did not make the person like an adult, but chayev bayal ketanim kigdolim. But if the victim is a child, it's exactly the same as if it's an adult. So we didn't distinguish. We don't distinguish by the victim, but we do distinguish by the perpetrator if it's a child or an adult. Sharbadam shasabay ketanim kigdolim. When it comes to an ox, if the perpetrator is a child, talking about a perpetrator ox. That if it's 1 day old, it's still considered an ox.
No, it wasn't talking about.
Well, right now we're talking about if an ox kills a man, that we don't make a distinction between if the child is if the ox is a young child or if it's the ox is fully grown. Should you not for sure not make a distinction between the victim? When it comes to a human, we make a distinction between the perpetrator if it's a child or an adult. But we don't make a distinction by the victim if it's a child or an adult. When it comes to an ox where we don't make a distinction by the perpetrator, for sure we shouldn't make a distinction by the victim. Umar says, like, it's not a good kal v'chaymer. When a person kills another person, you said that there is a distinction between if it's a child or an adult, but nevertheless, by the victim, you don't make any distinction. That's because shekin chayav bar b'dvarim. That's because if a person is such a perpetrator, he causes damage, he has to pay 4 other things. Nezek tzar sheves ripei baishas to pay those extra payments. But an ox doesn't have to pay that. So you're telling me, kal v'chaymer, that if a person is so lenient and nevertheless you're so strict by him, so for sure an ox which is so strict, for sure turns out that the person is so strict. There's something stricter by the person. That kal v'chaymer that you thought that if a weak person can pick up 10 pounds, for the strong person, it turns out that this person was actually stronger than the strong person. So you have no proof. Okay. Talmud Laimar. So therefore, because of that, because it's not a good kal v'chaymer, I have the pasuk ben yigach basikach lachayev al kanim k'gedalim, that we have to say that no matter what the victim is the ox is going to be put to death. This would only tell me if the ox that gores is a muad. How do I know that I have to put the ox to death, even if it's a tam animal? Right? It wasn't forewarned. So it says dinhu. This is logical. Because you have to put it to death if it kills a man or a woman. And you have to put it to death if it's a child or an adult, right? Or even if it's a child. Just like when it was an adult, he didn't make a distinction between. If it was a tamamud, we said that every animal needs to be put to death if it kills a human. Even when it kills a child, we shouldn't make any distinction, right? It's logical. Shouldn't make any distinction. Should put the animal to death. It's even a kal v'chaimer. When it comes to a man and woman, they always have to pay for damages if a man or a woman causes damage. So ben obas, 1 second, by a man or woman that caused damage, you always have to pay. And if a animal kills them, you didn't make a distinction between tam and mud, you always have to kill the animal. So ben obas shiyafa kaychem ben azakin. When it comes to a child, that they have a certain advantage when it comes to damages. That if a child causes a damage, they're exempt from payment. It's called pigiyasan ra.
Parents are
Even the parents are exempt. Yeah, the kids cause damage, and the parents don't even have to pay. The kids don't pay, and the parents don't pay.
They get a patch.
They get a botch where it hurts, right? So, but nevertheless, we see a distinction. So if they have a certain advantage that they don't have to pay for certain damages, so that means that they have an upper hand over here. So when they get damaged, for sure the animal should be put to death. They don't even always have to pay when they cause a damage.
Break a window.
When they break a window. But so if that's the case, then because of that upper hand, then for sure that upper hand is going to make anyone that causes them harm is going to be put to death. Because they have that upper hand. Amrit v'chidanen kal mechamer lahachmer alav. Umar says, 1 second, it's a strange kal v'chaimer what you're just doing. Because you're saying that because we find by a muad that you put the animal to death, so too you want to extend it also to a tam. It says, 1 second, just because you're strict by a muad, how do you know that you're going to be strict by the tam? And also, maybe the reason why a tam and muad, both of those animals are put to death if it kills a human being. It's talking about if it kills an adult, because that adult was chayiv mitzvahs and now can't perform those mitzvahs. Maybe that's not the same thing when it comes to a child, because the child does not perform the mitzvahs. So maybe it's only by a muad that you put the animal to death, not by a tam. It says twice yigach, negicha lamisa, negicha lenezaken. It's coming to teach me that it doesn't matter tam or muad, whether it's misa or nezaken, it doesn't matter who it gores, a child or an adult, it's all going to have the same halacha. Okay. Next Mishnah. You have an ox that was rubbing itself against the wall. And it fell on a person that was in Los Angeles. And there was a restaurant on Melrose that had the valet parking. So these valet guys would take the cars and they would zoom around and try to park them in alleys. It's hard. Parking in LA is not so simple. Anyway, but this valet guy, It was on Shabbos. He swerves around and he bangs into a wall by an alley. There was a wall that was blocking the property from the alley. He hits it, and you see the wall was like cinder blocks. You see it like wobbling, and the top of the wall starts to crumble. And the guy just drove off. It looks like he does it all the time, Well, the valet guys probably, whether they're bored, they just play with the cars, So,
Was that Mozart,
was that the name of the restaurant? I don't remember.
the fancy restaurant?
Could be.
That was Michelle Obama's favorite restaurant.
Uh-huh.
They used to have problems there for that reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So here you have an ox. Those days it was an ox. It wasn't a Ferrari, but it was an ox that was rubbing itself against the wall, and now the cinder blocks on the top that starts to shake and wobble, it comes crashing down, and it falls on a person. So there was no intention there. Let's say an ox was goring another animal, and it ended up like it moved aside and it hit the person. Liknani v'harig ben Yisrael. The ox was intending to gore a non-Jew. I don't know how it would know the difference. Maybe from something hanging around its neck, and it ends up killing a Jew. Linefalim, or it was going to gore a. This would be a fetus that was within its first month, and it ended up killing Ben Kayama, another fetus that was
older.
That was. I think the difference is it would be in its if it was an 8-month pregnancy or if it was a 9-month pregnancy. Ben Kayama would be a 9-month pregnancy. The 8-month pregnancies apparently back then did not last. The child would be an aphel, stillborn or something. So because the intention wasn't there, so he's pater. Now, what do we mean pater? We said before that you always have to kill the animal, according to no, we said that you don't kill the animal. As we said before, everyone says you don't kill the animal. The question is if you had to pay kaifer. That was the question. Over here we're saying pater. So very easy to say pater, that you don't have to kill the animal. Amar Shmuel pater mimisa. Shmuel explains the Mishnah. Shmuel qualifies the Mishnah. Says that when it says pater, it's talking about death. You don't kill the animal if there was no intention. But v'chayev b'kaifer. But you still have to pay for the death of the payment still is there. Now, who held that? That was Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan held that you had to pay. Rabbah said that you did not have to pay. So Shmuel says, Pater mimisa v'chayev b'kaifer. Rav Amar Pater mizam mizeh. Rav, it's easy to remember because Rav holds like Rabbah. It's really Rabbah holds like Rav. It's Rabbah's later. But Rav says that you pater from both. You don't have to pay, and the animal doesn't get put to death. Why do you have to pay? I'm sorry. Why is he pater? Second. Oh, yeah. Even if you learn im kaifer, but that was only by a muad. That doesn't say by a tam. Very interesting. Ba'amai hatamhu. What's a kasha on Shmuel? How could Shmuel say that yechayev in kaifer? Even Rabbi Yochanan that said before that im kaifer, that extra word is coming to teach me that you still have to pay, but that was only by a muad. Tamu. The Gemara says, "Kedamarav b'muad lifel al bnei adam b'bayra sachanam b'muad l'schachach al bnei adam b'tzalim." We're talking about that. We're dealing with the muad. How is it a muad if it doesn't have kavana? It's a muad. It's forewarned to do this type of behavior. It always falls into pits, or it always knocks against walls. And it does this all the time. It did it 3 times already, but it doesn't intend to kill. It just it's always knocking against the wall.
Where the animal meant to kill the wrong person is still exempt.
Yeah, because we compare it to the owner. An owner intended to kill someone that he would be exempt for, so then he's exempt as well. We'll see if he intended to kill one person but killed another person. Then that's a little different. But if he intended to kill someone that he wouldn't have been chayav misa for, he ends up killing someone that he is chayav misa for, so he's exempt. Umar says, if he does this all the time, then bar katalahu. Then why doesn't he get the death? Why don't they kill the ox? I understand by the pit. What happened was he always sees these vegetables at the edge of the pit and goes over to eat the vegetables, and he keeps falling in. So that's clearly not intentional damage. He just likes the vegetables and he falls in. But over here, where he's banging against the wall and something's happening every time. So doesn't it look like he's doing this on purpose? He's knocking into the wall to try to kill the. He's not intending to kill. He's just trying to scratch himself on the wall. To scratch his mosquito bites, fleas probably. And how do we know that this is his intention? Because after it fell, he still keeps scratching on the blocks that are on the floor. So he's not, obviously what his intention here wasn't to make it fall, because even after it fell, he's still scratching his back. The Gemara says, why should there be any payment? This is all secondary type damage. And secondary type damage, we call the tzreiris. If any type of damage that was indirect, he said would be second payment. 44. Amar Rav Mari Breder Rav Kana the Ka'azal Minei. We're talking about that it's not tzreiris because he was actually pushing the rocks that were falling. It wasn't that he knocked against one end of the wall and the other wall was like falling over and it was secondary type damage. No. He was together with the rocks as they're falling, and he keeps pushing against it. Tanika say the Shmuel, the Tiyuf to the Rav. You have a brisa. It's going to support Shmuel. That's going to say that he's going to be chayiv to pay kaifer, and it's going to end up being a question on Rav. That Rav said that he's exempt from kaifer. Here we're going to see that he's chayiv. So the brisa has 4 cases. Yesh chayiv b'misa u'b'kaifer. There is a case where an animal is put to death, and also the owner has to pay kaifer. Yesh chayiv b'kaifer pater b'misa. There's another case where you're chayiv kaifer, but you're exempt from death. Oh, that's going to be sounds like the case, which is going to be a kasha on Rav. Yesh chayiv b'misa pater min kaifer. Then there's a death penalty, and you're also, but nevertheless, there's an exemption from kaifer. You have to figure out that one. And then there's a possibility where it's pater from both. Okay, how does this work? So we go back. Case number 1. Muad b'kavana. If it's a muad to do this, and it also has kavana, so chayiv b'misa b'kaifer. Then there's misa and kaifer. Remember, we said that kaifer is only by a muad. We had a discussion if there's chatzi kaifer by a tam. That was like one opinion, but kaifer was only by a muad. When the Gemara said, how did it become a muad? If you have to kill the animal every time, remember we said that ran away or whatever. So here we have chayiv and kaifer, and it kills intentionally. So therefore, there's a death penalty as well. Muad.
Changed ownership.
Yeah, that could have been another example there.
So what's the difference? It says chatzi nezek and then there's muad.
Chatzi nezek is the half payment, which is paid for a tam.
Right.
And then a muad pays nezek shalim. Muad is the
that's,
type
that's
of
another
animal.
Word for kaifer or no?
No.
Muad
Muad
is just for death.
Right? Muad is the title that we put on the animal if it gored 3 times.
Right.
And then there's some ramifications of that. One is that it has to pay nezek shalim. Another is that it has to pay kaifer. Those are the rules that come out of the fact that it's a muad. And from the highest property. Right?
So it's multiple things.
Yeah. Yeah, but muad is the title for the animal, and then the rules that come out of it are a bunch of other rules.
Oh, wow. So it's multiple
Yeah, depending on what
Well, we
happened.
weren't sure if it was offline.
Yeah,
Hey.
more is the career.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think the way the Rambam put it was that the muad is when abnormal behavior becomes normal. See, because anything that was normal, like trampling and all of that, the animal was always a muad. But for it to gore and do that, that was not normal behavior. But when that behavior becomes normal, then we consider that a muad. That's
As Menace Friedman says, when people stop
that-
blushing.
California.
When people stop blushing. That
So
was his first.
the next thing is muad shlei b'kavana. If it's a muad, but it didn't have intention, so then chayev b'kaifer, you have to make the payment. This is Shmuel's statement of patur mimis, but the animal doesn't get put to death because it didn't intentionally kill, right? It was rubbing against the wall or something, but it does it all the time. Tam b'kavana. Let's say it's a tam, and it's also, but it had kavana, so then it's chayev misa. You have to put the animal to death, like we said. If it kills, you have to put it to death. Patur mikaifer, but there's no half payment for kaifer. Tam shalei b'kavana. And if it's a tam and it also didn't have intention, then patur mizeh, you don't put it to death because it didn't have intention, and you also don't pay kaifer because it was a tam.
This is like the animal equivalent to selling to around.
Yeah.
You could definitely.
There's certain Gemaras where Rabbi Yirmiyah is the one that divides it up like this. Rabbi Yirmiyah would be he if you remember, did you learn Hamafkid? Yeah, so in Hamafkid there was this thing where sometimes he's chayiv to bring a korban if he denied money and this, and Rabbi Yirmiyah has like 4 cases to, and then in Masechta Sukkah also there's another type of 4 cases where Rabbi Yirmiyah says the sukkah on top of a sukkah, if the upper one is the lower one, and the thing, and the each one, because he spells out all the possibilities. Yirmiyah is probably under Rabbi Yochanan in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe he's under Reb Zera in Babel. He moved from Reb Zera to Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan's students look under Rabbi Vo in Eretz Yisrael.
He's under Rabbi Baruch, Rabbi Zera, and Rabbi Yirmiyah also.
Okay, now we go on. Once we started this brisa, we have some more details here. If it caused damage and it didn't intend to cause that damage. Rabbi Yehuda mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda says that he's chayev to pay for that damage. And Reb Shimon Paiter, Reb Shimon says he's exempt from paying for the damage. He didn't intend to do the damage. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda says chayev? It's a little aleph here. Aleph usually sends you to a gra, but I don't see the gra on the page. It's funny, I have the mark for it, but I don't have the, I forgot to put it on my page. Do you have a gra on your page? Guys, a gra? Let me look at your Gemara. I have an aleph, and it doesn't go to anything.
I don't have it on.
And the plot thickens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I do have an aleph. It goes to the top. It goes to, that's Rabbi Shaya pick. It goes to the Ein Mishmat. The Rabbi Shaya pick. Rabbi Shaya Berlin added in some things that the Ein Mishpat left out. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev and Rabbi Shimon Paiter. My time with Rabbi Yehuda Yalaf mi Kaifer. We learned from Kaifer. Ma Kaifer shlei b'kavana chayev. Just like Kaifer, he has to pay it even though there's no intention. Remember, that was the din of Shmuel. That was the din of Rabbi Yochanan. So also damages he has to pay even if there's no intention. Reb Shimon Yalach Mikatli the show. Reb Shimon says no. I'm going to learn. Reb Shimon says from the death of the ox. When do I kill the ox? Only if it intended to cause the damage. But if it didn't intend to cause the damage, if it didn't intend to kill, then you don't kill the ox. So too by damages, if it didn't intend to cause the damage, so then you don't have to pay. Ma katli shlei b'kavana patah. Nizakin shlei b'kavana patah. Amazing. Exempt. Okay. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda nami neilef mikatli. Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda do that? Learn from the death of the ox. It says, done in tashlum mitashlum, done in tashlum mimisa. It says, I want to learn payment from payment. I don't want to learn payment from death penalties. So just because he is exempt from a death penalty, the ox, doesn't mean that I should not cause the master, not impose on the master payments. Reb Shimon Namine left me kaifer. So why doesn't Reb Shimon learn from kaifer? Payment from payment sounds better. It says, "Danin chiyuvi deshar mi chiyuvi deshar lafuke kaifer dechiyuvi bailam." He says that when the ox has to when the ox causes damage, so the payment of that ox comes from the ox itself. So too, the death penalty of the ox is on the ox itself. Kaifer is a way of freeing up the owner from his own punishment of death. So payment and death penalty of the ox are more similar to than payment of the kaifer, which is that's an obligation that goes on the master, on the owner of the ox. That's really an obligation on the owner because it's an atonement of his own soul when he pays that kaifer.
Okay. Where's the Tifta?
Well, the Tifta Derav was from the case where we said Muad Shlei B'Kavana. They didn't spell it out. They didn't spell it out. It was you had to have seen that. And Muad Shlei B'Kavana is Chayef B'Kaifer Pater B'Misa. I marked it off in my Gemara.
Just gotta be smart.
So that's what the pencils are for. Someone intends to kill an animal, but instead he kills a man, he's exempt. Let's say he intended for another man, but he killed this man. He says he wants to be exempt. He says, nope, that's not exempt. That's chayiv. That's going to be chayiv. Because, well, why not?
Ox intended to kill this person, but killed that person.
Correct. That's what you mentioned earlier. And the guy asked about this, not this case because I got confused. I think we have the human.
We're gonna do a comparison to the human.
So in a bullfight,
Yeah.
the bull kills the wrong person.
Yeah. Well, we actually said that the at a bullfight,
That was
the Shurha Studin, we said that we exempted him anyway.
He was trained.
Trained to kill.
Studin
Certain
means
people.
stadium. That's interesting.
But he's trained to kill certain people.
They're
Like a
all
bullfighter,
right.
but let's say he kills a clown that's playing around there.
Right. Right. So
Shouldn't be there.
for sure he's going to be exempt.
Why is he a
He's exempt.
He's exempt because even if he kills the person he intended to kill, he's exempt.
Okay.
Because that was because they were doing that to him. They were making him do that. So here, but what happens if it killed the, what is it?
They're prodding them on.
They're prodding them on.
Rodeo has clothes.
Yeah.
So here, what was that thing with the guy that used to always bet on the horse? Every time he bet, he'd always bet on a horse that had the name of a hat. So and he would always win. Then what was this big thing, and he lost. They said, well, so which horse won? Oh, that Japanese horse, Yamaka. Okay.
Speaking of that, did everyone here get to see Rabbi, what's his name's presentation yesterday?
Rabbi Kaczynski, no.
Yeah.
Oh, because he mentioned something about the Rebbe's hat,
yeah.
which was so gabal that this first time I ever heard. He said, like, the whole thing that the Rebbe was for, it wasn't for himself, anything. When his father-in-law passed away, if I understood right, they wanted to give him his father-in-law's hat, which is more of a Shtreimel type hat, and he refused to accept it. he wanted to continue just wearing just his fedora, that, yeah. So can you imagine had he accepted it, we'd all be looking like Satmar,
Yeah.
right? Because we'd have a total different look in the body.
It'd be expensive too.
Hey, the hats are expensive enough.
Yeah, but 200
even
to
more.
2,000. Hanaskaven, the Gemara, Hanaskaven laharagas ev haragas says, Chayiv masnisin like Reb Shimon. If he intends to gore one person and kills another person, then he would be chayiv. But this Mishnah doesn't fit with Reb Shimon. The Tanya was taught in a brayse. Reb Shimon Aimer. Reb Shimon is Reb Shimon by Yochai. Says, Afilu niskaven laharagas ev haragas ev pater. If he intends to kill one person, but he kills someone else, he's exempt. My time with the Reb Shimon. What's the reason for Reb Shimon? The Amar Kra, it says, Ashar Yisak of a gam bal of yumas. The ox is stoned, and also the owner is put to death. Now, but he said the owner put to death means that he has the death penalty from heaven, and he has to pay the kaifer to exonerate himself. It says, Kamisas abaylim kach misas ashar. We do a comparison between the owner's death to the death of the shar. Ma baylam adam iskaven lay, just like the owner is only going to be put to death if he intends to kill this person. After Nami Adam Chavan, they only put the ox to death if he intends to kill this person. And how do you know that the owner is only going to be put to death if he intends? How do you know that? The Amar Kra, the pasuk says, says that he has to wait like an ambush and attack him. He has to actually have intent for it. But what do the Rabbanan do with that waiting in ambush? That means that you need to have intention. They say that it's true that you need to have some sort of intention, but not the same sort of intention that you're referring to. It says it's a coming to exclude if someone throws a rock inside a group of people. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Let's say there's 9 non-Jewish people there, and there's 1 Jewish person there. Now, when they kill the non-Jew, which of course is not allowed, but he still doesn't get a death penalty. Doesn't get a death penalty. So typically, why do I need a pasuk for that? If the majority is non-Jews. So inami, or else palga. Let's say it's 50-50, Safek Navarch's La'akal. We're still not going to put a death penalty on him because we would always try to save the life, not to, and here we have a doubt, it's 50-50. So the Gemara says, we're talking about where there are 9 Jewish people and there's 1 non-Jew, and even though there's 9 Jewish people there, but because there's 1 non-Jew, so every person that's stationary in his location is considered kavua. It's considered a 50-50 chance. So Rashi spells out that whenever we say kavua k'mechza al mechza, we learn it from this pasuk. This pasuk is the pasuk that teaches me that when I have, even if it's a majority, but I don't view the majority as a majority, I view the majority as a 50-50 because it's stationary. When do I view a majority as a majority? That's only when it leaves its location. One person has left the house and he went outside. I say, well, I don't know who that person was. Could be a Jew or a non-Jew. I say, well, what was the majority in the house? The majority in the house was Jewish. Okay, so he's Jewish. That would be the assumption. But in the house itself, I say, 1 second. In the house, I had 1 non-Jewish person there. Then this person that he threw it could be on each individual that gets hit is a 50-50. Maybe he's the Jew, maybe he's the not Jew. So that's why he would be exempt.
So if Reuben wants to kill Shimon and shoots but kills Levi,
Yeah.
under this discussion, where does that end up?
This would be chayiv. According to the Rabbanan, and according to Reb Shimon, he'd be pater. Yeah.
Hostage situation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry? Right. Yeah, I guess so. Unless it was considered more Karav Lamezid or something. Yeah.
The other guy was right behind him.
My mother.
It had to be a woman, because you were saying, okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Something left.
Right?
Should we leave it over here? Let's leave it here. Okay.
Okay.